Chairman, Mr. Feinberg, the question would be, who's going to pay the salaries of the employees that you hire to implement this program and disbursement of the $20 billion?
BP.
BP.
Who?
And how many employees do you think that you'll expect? Can you extrapolate from your 9/11 experience?
Well, with 9/11, which was a relatively, thank goodness, a relatively modest claim cohort,
Right.
we had 475 employees. BP, in paying out $230 million so far, has hired about 1,500 at 35 claims offices throughout the Gulf region, including, I think, 7 in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm now putting together a budget for the Gulf Coast Claims Facility. I think we probably won't need that many people, but I'll know more about that in the next week or two.
I understand. So it's roughly going to be 1,500 or less in your
Correct.
And these employees will be paid by BP, by the BP funds.
That's correct.
And the salary structure, is this going to be something like the private sector or the government sector, or the private sector, the government sector?
Again, the deputy administrator of the fund, Camille Byros, who's setting up the budget, she'd have a better handle on that, but I can certainly get you that information.
In 9/11, did you use, what standard did you use for salaries?
In salaries, we used Price Waterhouse had a contract with the Department of Justice that used largely private salaries.
Okay. I have here, I think it's a 4-page claim form that BP used for commercial fishermen. I notice on their form it does not have a notary public on it, and it's just that people can fill it out. Do you intend to use the same form, or are you going to come up with your new form?
New form.
New form. Okay. And I noticed that with BP that 43% of the claims are still waiting payment. So that means, are you going to take over and inherit all those 43%? And does that mean that these people who supposedly haven't got claim, is lack of information, are you going to follow up on that?
Yes, we will not require people to refile. Now, that 43% figure, I'm not sure that figure is accurate.
Okay.
Because BP apparently has counted as a claim somebody who makes an inquiry and gets a claim number and never fills out the form. So I'm not sure. I got to get a handle on that data.
Okay. Let me just give you a statement and ask if you agree with this. Do you think everybody should get reimbursed no matter where they're located if they can prove loss of income because of this spill?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because, you know, a family could say, I'm in Tennessee, they're going to go to Pensacola. They say, we're not going to go to Pensacola, we're going to go to Tampa. And then the gas station on the interstate could say, well, golly, I just didn't get that family Tennessee, and make that claim. So, I mean, how are you going to work this so that it's a fair thing?
I have to listen to these experts that are at this table, like Mr. Malone. And Mr. Malone, in a very careful presentation, laid out for me sort of the proximity, the zone where there's the greatest direct impact, and said, Mr. Feinberg, in that zone in Alabama, that is the zone that is the most directly impacted. Tourism. These are the restaurants, the motels, the other sites. And with input from experts, I will try and answer that very question as to what's the proximity where it's most likely that a claim should be deemed eligible.
Mr. Feinberg, under 9/11, did you have anybody, accounting firm, come in and look at what you did? Was there anybody, not necessarily that you reported to, but somebody sort of like we have here, Inspector General, GAO, can go into a government agency and sort of tell members of Congress what's happening? Did you have that under the 9/11 Commission?
Constantly, the Office of Management and Budget.
Okay. Now, you're not going to have that here. Don't you think you would even want to have an Inspector General or a claims adjuster or somebody that could oversee this and report back to Congress on what you're doing instead of you reporting back on what you're doing yourself? Don't you think, I mean, I would think I would like to have somebody checking up on me just to make sure that I get the cross the dots.
I love that idea. I think we're going to do that. Now, we will have a separate question related. What about, I've heard this from various congressional committees, what about fraud?
Right,
What about the problem of fraud? Not so much auditing as just fraudulent claims.
right.
The Department of Justice Criminal Fraud Division's working with us directly.
You'll refer them to the Department of Justice.
Absolutely. We'll have an internal, retained anti-fraud expert working within the facility to audit and check for fraud. But I absolutely have no problem with transparency in the form of congressional oversight or some sort of regular reporting by an independent person checking on what we're doing.
Mr. Chairman, I think what Mr. Feinberg's mentioning is something that this committee or some committee in Congress should help him with this legislation that allows him to report to, or they provide sort of a inspector general type of accounting here. This is a huge amount of money, $20 billion, and I think the American taxpayers obviously would like some kind of report, and obviously we have great confidence in Mr. Feinberg, but I think at the same time he wouldn't mind having somebody to counterbalance and show that everything is going, because this is going to be 1,500 employees that are working in a way that's he can't control completely. So it's just a thought. Thank you, Mr. Feinberg.